Right. Now I have joining me in the studio two lawyers, Fred Nzako and Jide Ologun, to discuss this new development. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Mr. Nzako, what your reaction is to this rearrest of Nnamdi Kanu, seeing that in 2017 he jumped bail, though he was arrested in 2015, but according to him, he fled because of his life.
Well, my reaction is the same with that of most Nigerians who feel that Nnamdi Kanu receiving the short end of the knife from the federal government. Recall that he was arrested in 2015 and then kept in custody for 2 good years without trial, over and against all provisions of the law, over and against all pronouncements of court that he should be either taken to court or be released on bail. But federal government refused, neglected and denied to grant him his constitutionally guaranteed right. And then even when he was eventually taken to court, the same federal government, through the instrumentalities of coercion, sent the military to ransack his community and threaten his life. In the process, many people lost their lives. It is not hidden. And in the course of this struggle, Nnamdi Kanu has lost both parents, and even though not killed directly by the federal government, but the trauma of his ordeal may have led to the death of his parents.
So?
The trauma of his ordeal. He said so himself. I don't think so. He said so himself.
Right.
And a man was on bail, and then he was ready and was going to court, and all of a sudden the soldiers swooped onto him, and then of course it is only a tree that will hear that it is about to be cut down and remain standing at that spot.
So it was right for him to jump bail.
Every human being, every animal, not just a human being, that feels threatened by any way in any manner will likely shift ground. So if Nigeria begin to look at the narrative of jumping bail, that would be unfair to Nnamdi Kanu. The narrative is that, yes, very unfair.
Why
the
so?
narrative is that his life was threatened, obviously threatened, and he had to run away, which is a national stimulus of every human being and of every animal. Even if you have a goat at your backyard and you approach the goat with food in one hand and with stick on the other hand, the goat will reject your food.
Don't you think that while he was in custody, his life could also have been threatened if that is what government was trying to do?
Why did you not ask the soldiers what they went to do in his house?
Right.
That should be the right question. What did the soldiers go to do in his house? In the process, people lost their lives. What did they go there to do? At that point, what did he do? Even if he had committed any offense in the eye of the law, or
right,
in the opinion of the government, what did the soldiers go to Nnamdi Kanu's house to do?
Wasn't he being investigated at the time?
When he was enjoying the bail granted him by the court after 2 years of unlawful incarceration? These are the critical questions, because I like to analyze issues based on cause and effect.
Right.
What was the cause and what happened to be the effect? The cause is that federal government acted very unlawfully. The cause is that the soldiers went to his house unlawfully. The cause is that his life was threatened. And the effect is that he had to run away, which is the natural stimulus of every animal, not just every individual.
Let's get Jide Ologun's reaction to the statement that you have made. He said government acted unlawfully, and it was the effect of that made Nnamdi Kanu jump bail.
Nnamdi Kanu himself mentioned the fact that he could have been killed with the others who were killed in his residence when the military came invading. And that's maybe a valid argument, but the issue now is that he has been rearrested. He was going through trial, and if you look at the Constitution of Nigeria, Section 36 or Section 5 in particular, 1999 as amended, he's entitled to what we call presumption of innocence. There are allegations against him of instigating terrorism, different charges, and unless these allegations are proved beyond all reasonable doubt in the criminal justice value chain, he may not be convicted. So it's now for the government. But my concern really, and my fear, is that with recent developments in the country, for example, the high level of insecurity, wanton destructions in the southeastern part of the country that he is allegedly instigating even from abroad. It may be a tough one. But, you know, my concern goes beyond this rearrest of Nnamdi Kanu. What are the issues in the country? Nnamdi Kanu himself was born, I think, September 25, 1967. And that was when the civil war started. That lasted for about 3 years, claiming millions of lives in Nigeria. And the issues that prompted this, we are yet to resolve in Nigeria. And like the Northern Coalition Group is saying, that this Nnamdi Kanu issue may not disappear with the rearrest. Can we look in the direction of referendum? And right now in the country, it's not just about Biafra. Other regions of the country are agitating. And what are these agitations focusing on? The engagement of the commonwealth of this country for the common good of this country. And unless we address this, we'll be arresting and rearresting and, you know, stampeding. That's on one side. On the other side, I think this has punctuated, or rather confirmed, the capacity we talk about of the government to act if they want to act. I have mentioned it when it was time to get Nnamdi Kanu to proscribe IPOB, they acted. When it was time to get him, you know, to make him run away, they acted. Can we, you know, divert the same attention to the bandits, the unknown gunmen, and solve the crisis in this land? And finally, I want to advise this morning that the government should please look in the direction of public relations. The definition of public relations means that, you know, a planned, deliberate and sustained effort to create and sustain mutual understanding between an organization or a country and the publics. So can we come together as a nation, address our issues, rather than all these confrontations that are keeping us in poverty and not allowing us to register our presence in the polity of developed countries?
Right, there's something he mentioned that I'd like for you to react to. He said that the agitations, though Nnamdi Kanu may have been rearrested, but that the issues and the agitations, what he's championing, may not go to rest. And the question on the minds of a lot of people is, with the agitations we have seen in the Southeast, would his rearrest actually fuel what we have been seeing in the Southeast?
Well, his rearrest will not just fuel it. What will fuel more agitation is if he's not given fair trial. If the people perceive persecution instead of diligent, lawful prosecution and fair trial, then there will likely to be some backlash. My brother and friend Jide mentioned the issue of referendum. And the question is, why is Nigeria of today shying away from that much needed referendum? On 11th February 1961, there was a referendum to determine the life of the British Cameroon. And in that referendum, the northern British Cameroon decided to go to Nigeria, and the southern British Cameroon decided to go to Cameroon. A lot of issues about religion and the rest played out. On 10th August 1963, Nigeria, this Nigeria that we have today, went into a referendum to determine the life of the old Midwestern region. And it was carved out from the then Western region through a referendum. In Catalan area, region of Spain, there was a referendum on whether they were going to remain or not. In Kurdish region of Turkey, of Iraq, sorry, there was a referendum. In Britain of late, there was a referendum whether they are going to remain with EU or whether they are going to go out of EU.
Absolutely.
So what the agitation that Nnamdi Kanu is championing is a civil agitation which the federal government has given the tent of criminality. It's embarrassing that government will do the normal Nigerian approach where a man and another man has issues with their land, They are tussling for land. The other man wants to bring in the police. He says there is threat to his life, that he tried to kill him and all that. Meanwhile, none of those things existed. Otherwise, what has Nnamdi Kanu done as a person that will warrant the charges of treason, that will warrant the charges of money laundering, that will warrant the charges, those high-ranking charges, which, of course, government knows that they have to prove beyond all reasonable doubt.
Absolutely.
And it is the lack of that proof that has made government in the first instance to keep Nnamdi Kanu unlawfully in detention for 2 good years. You know what that means? And then even when he has now started going through his trial, government could not have the patience to wait for the law to take its course, and they stampeded him out of the country. Who is now the culprit in the matter between Nnamdi Kanu and federal government? I mean, let's look at issues the way they are, and not just being sentimental about, oh, he's insulting anybody. When has insult become a crime?
Right.
It is a law of thought. It is a tortious offense, of which if you feel insulted, when America was going for election, somebody made an image of Donald Trump, a naked image of Donald Trump with a small ball, and kept it in a massive square. Did you not see it? Had Donald Trump killed him? The problem we have today is that we are not operating democracy. What we have is a civilian rule managed by military hands. And those tenets of democracy are lacking in Nigeria. Otherwise, why would federal government be so sensuous about issues of criticism and issues of civil agitation? What is wrong with that? If we go by way of referendum, if the same government is saying that Nnamdi Kanu has so many followers, does that not tell you something? If he is alone, would he have such followers? If the government now claims that the followers are essentially illiterate, conduct a referendum and say, let only those with school cert. Of course, you know that to be a president in Nigeria, you need only school certificate.
Right.
To be a senator, a governor, only school certificate. Conduct a referendum and place a benchmark that only those with school certificate would vote in that referendum, and let us see whether Nnamdi Kanu is alone or not. Okay. Government is shying away from the truth, and government is hiding from its shadows.